Hello, my name is Sharifa Patrichaida, and the topic that I'll be presenting is called Confidentiality, the ethical issues within school counseling. So the first one is the introduction. The foundation in an ethical counseling agreement is confidentiality. Since school counselors have many interactions with different clients, identifying and recognizing the limits of confidentiality in school environments can be challenging. School counselors have more ethical challenges than those who work in other environments, working not just with minors but also with other stakeholders such as parents, teachers, school officials, and community members, creating future legal and ethical conundrums. So the problems in confidentiality among counselors and students. The ethics challenge for school counselors is that Bordenhorn carried out an inquiry with school councils and indicated important ethical issues relating to the treatment of student secrecy, parent privileges, and student risk detail. Other researchers not only list any such questions as the most difficult ones, but also include topics relating to coping with ethical violations by a colleague, proper collaboration with educational workers, and knowledge exchange with families and school staff. The potential ethical problems that school advisors pose when they relate to the rights to the privacy is status and advancement of children, the value of school players, security and trust, questions relating to informed consent, time limits, and the number of students consulted. So the next one is the relationship on school counselors and others. So trust is regarded as the cornerstone of the counseling relationship. Confidentiality in consulting helps ensure that clients and consultants support each other. Yet secrecy is also difficult to determine and understand in school environments when school counselors are often involved in various interactions with pupils, school teachers, workers, and parents. A chain of trust was developed through the narratives of the individual as they explain their decision-making process to decide how to share knowledge with students. Consultation. Many school counselors receive assurance from consultation that they were behaving in accordance with common principles of conduct. While the majority sought advice from other school counselors within their school building or district, others sought advice from places outside their local workplace or also outside the field of school therapy. All counselors said that they had a sort of consultation with other mental health professionals or school administrators. The perception of available consultant among counselors seemed to vary based on school level. So for the case study, the background of the study is basically about Mrs. Cass, a second-year unemployed elementary school educator in a school of children from an upper middle-class residential neighborhood, became embroiled in an ethical quandary while attempting to recognize and lobby for her role in the school environment. For over 20 years, the building principal and several teachers served there for most of the period and had no school counselor. The job description for the elementary school counselor role was not at all finalized as Mrs. Cass was hired. Furthermore, the staff did not participate in joint decision making and did not have a good perspective on the role of licensed school counselors. As Mrs. Cass faced challenging decisions, she became charged with independently differentiating between decisions she should make autonomously and those that required the principal's approval. So the case basically involves a 9-year-old pupil, Jane Smith, who was assigned to the counselling office due to failing grades, a sullen demeanour, and a lack of connection with peers during Mrs. Cass's second year. Jane shared her fears about her father's temper to Mrs. Cass, especially when he was not taking his medication. Jane was able to describe situations where she and her siblings basically hide from their father until he was able to return to normal. Jane also further mentions that she would daydream a lot in class instead of participating in discussions. So Mrs. Cass was concerned about Jane's inability to provide clear details regarding her father's behavior as well as home life. She was concerned about safety but recognized inconsistencies in Jane's story. So Mrs. Cass ended up inviting Mrs. Smith, who was Jane's mother, to discuss concern about Jane's classroom behavior as well as disclosure about her father. Um, Mrs. Smith was actually quite thankful to Mrs. Cass for basically encouraging her for basically supporting Jane's academic and social development. But as the conversation progressed, Mrs. Smith ended up talking about her husband, Mr. Smith, where she basically shared incidents of spousal abuse and personal fears for her children's safety, where they were solely in the care of her husband. So she also mentioned how she basically barricaded their bedroom door so her husband would not be able to reach the children. Um, Mrs. Cass ended up being incredibly angry as well as sad that Mrs. Smith continued being in the relationship that pretty much compromised the children's safety. So from here we can see that Mrs. Cass basically knows the fact that she basically need to process her feelings to ensure that they did not interfere with the decision making. So the end conclusion of the case is that Jane's position in the school setting was addressed, and it was decided that Mrs. Cass will continue working with her on a short-term basis. So apart from that as well, Mrs. Cass also gave Mrs. Smith and her children referrals to therapy services that could help.
Hi, my name is Amro, and I will be continuing from the previous part present by Sharifa Patricia. So for my part, I'll be explaining about the ethical dilemma from the case study, the limitations, implications, and also for the conclusion. So for the ethical dilemma, previously, as uh, Sharifa Patricia explained, Mrs. Cass felt horrible when she realized that there was a conflict in her personal values and also her ethical and legal obligations. And the other is Mrs. Cass also failed to convey her duties to families and employees, as such as short-term counseling referrals, particularly given their poor understanding of the scope of school counseling aid. So for the next part is for the limitations on school counseling. Although if school counselors are present in the schools to help students, there is only so much that they can do. For so many tasks, it is impossible for a school counselor to dedicate as much time to individual counseling as certain students may require. Many students may be experiencing difficulties that necessitate immediate assistance and time dedicated solely to them. While school counselors can meet with the students for individual counseling, it is preferred that the maximum number of sessions to be 6 before the student is referred to a professional who can dedicate more time to their issues. For another limitation is that the school counselor may experience is getting an excessive number of students on their caseload. When there are so many students, the school counselor's ability to target specific students drops. Without the ability to assist these students, more will drop out and also miss courses or actually fail to graduate on time. And finally, a school counselor who is responsible for all of their difficulties in the school may be one of the issues. This is normal for the school counselor to believe that when they are in the school to assist students with their issues, any other problems in the school are their responsibility. Therefore, taking on too much pressure will inevitably hinder their ability to perform in other ways. So for the next part is about the implications. Although school counselors have ethical obligations to themselves, their parents, the career and also the school, their peers and also their professional associates, and also the society. Challenging topics such as confidentiality, parental rights, procedural issues, and mediation necessitate compliance with codes of ethics. It is suggested that school counselors use support networks within professional therapy agencies to meet with counselors to better explain complex situations, including sensitive details that can be exposed to school faculty in order to assist students. Researching the ASCA and also the ACA ethical codes on a regular basis will help school counselors to develop their professional reputation and grow as professionals. And for the last part is the conclusion. Um, this research may offers an insight into school counselors' misconceptions of students' confidentiality within the school environment. Counselor educators may help school counselors to build and improve their professional image, bridging the gap between graduate preparation and real-world experience. Professional school counselors should study the ACA and ASCA codes of ethics in order to best serve their students and also deal with their ethical concerns. Professional school counselors may assess best practice in areas of students' confidentiality by experience and knowledge of ethical codes, as well as consultation and guidance from other counselors. So that's the end of my part, and these are the references that we took for our draft and also our presentation. So thank you for listening, and goodbye.